Good afternoon. I'm so excited. I'm beyond blessed to just be able to stand up here and just to talk to you today. So I assume before in here that everybody's heard the parable of the Good Samaritan, but now I know everyone has. So I just want to start from the beginning. Let's look at the first traveler, who was the priest. He was known as a minister of religion, so he was probably very knowledgeable about God's law, more so than anybody else was. And he also knew that he had very specific rules to follow. So one might wonder, or we could brainstorm, why he didn't stop and help. And we could just think of many reasons. I mean, he was a priest. Maybe he had somewhere to be. He was going that way for a reason. He also knew that there was a lot of rules with purity regulations, and he didn't want to disobey any of those by touching a corpse if it wasn't your birth family. So those are just maybe one or two of the reasons. Maybe because he was so focused on the rules of the law that he understood the letter of the law, not the intent. I can't render aid to this person. I'm not medically qualified. How many times do we put ourselves in that position that we can't do it? We have the intent on justifying, not actually following. So next comes Levite. What do we know about them? They were relatively affluent clergy members, and they also had temple duties. Again, one might ask, what prevented him from stopping? And we could kind of use the same example for the priest. Maybe he just had places to be. Maybe he was scared that he'd get hurt. Maybe he'd get injured. But then he didn't stop. Lastly, we are introduced to a Samaritan, who is ultimately the one that does stop and help. But what you have to realize is that when Jesus said Samaritan, he stepped on toes in a big way. They were very looked down on in this culture. They were people who intermarried with the local Jewish population, so no one liked them. So in lighter terms, it'd be like a Georgia fan helping a Georgia Tech fan. Okay, so back to the story. What you're seeing is that the least likely person that would have helped was actually the one that stopped and helped. And that's so like Jesus. He's showing us that if he wants our attention, he's going to get it one way or another. So now let's talk about the expert of the law. He was typically one that was accustomed to having the upper hand. He knew the rules. But this time, Jesus turned the tables on him. See, in concluding the story, Jesus asked him, "Which of these three do you think proved neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers?" And the lawyer said, "The one who showed mercy." The lawyer couldn't even bring himself to utter the word Samaritan. So how interesting and totally twisted is that? In a perfect world, don't you think the priest would have been the one to stop and help? He's the one trying to influence people and encourage others to have a relationship with Christ and act Christ-like, but he won't even stop and help. Same for the Levite. He's a church-going man. But it wasn't. It didn't. When our actions don't match up with what we're saying, what kind of impression do you think that gives people? Sometimes we pass up the most obvious opportunities to set a Christ-like example for someone else because we are so set on doing things our own way. Sometimes we're so busy doing our work, maybe even God's work, but we forget and we fail to see the needs that are right in front of us. But it's so much deeper than that. I believe that most importantly, what Jesus is demonstrating in this parable is that we have to see the needs in others. I'm not saying that we have to stop every minute of the day and help someone, but we need to be able to see when someone needs help. We need to be willing to help, whatever the sacrifice may be, big or small. One of the biggest struggles I see with everyday life is church. We go up on Sunday, we listen to powerful sermons, we sing beautiful songs. Hey, but then we get home.
She's right.
But then we get home, and nothing changes. What we have to realize is that we are destined to fail on our own. It is only through God's amazing grace and redemption that we can see and feel the needs of others. Because he saw us, you and I. We were the ones laying on the side of the road, and he helped us. His ultimate sacrifice on the cross. And because of that gift, we can now rescue others. Not because of who we are or what we can do, but because of who he is and what he can do through us. James 1:22-25 specifically talks about how those who fail to do the word, those who only listen to it and hear it, deceive themselves. Going to church can be such an awesome thing, but if you don't take what's actually being said, all the devotions you're doing, all the sermons you're listening to, if you don't take it and apply it to your life, you might as well not have gone up and on in the morning. We don't want to be like the priest or the lawyer who just knows it. We want to be like the Samaritan who actually gets it and who understands its meaning. God put us in this world to share the gospel with others, to help others understand what it's like to be a Christian, to be his hands and feet. And something has to happen for you to become a good Samaritan. Has anything ever happened to you? Of course, that's what this whole parable is about. What the lawyer discovered and what we discovered too is that we cannot simply stand on the sidelines and figure out how to be good. We can argue all day about who should help. Is it my job? Who is my neighbor? But in the end, we must realize that we are helpless to be good Samaritans by our own strength. Jesus Christ, the crucified one, is the perfect neighbor. With him, and only with him, is go and do likewise even possible. In closing, picture this. A bus is traveling down the road. A man is sitting there with nothing but plastic bags on his feet and shoes. A man on the other side of the bus gets up, takes his socks and shoes off, puts them on the other man's feet, sits back down. Everybody on the bus is witnessing. What's he doing? Why? Or picture this. A teenage girl on a softball team has never hit a home run in her entire life. It's the last pitch of the last game of the season. She finally hits one over the fence. But when she runs to first base, she falls and tears her ACL. It's the last pitch. If anyone on her team helps her, they'll be disqualified and they'll lose. Two girls from the opposite team came, picked her up, carrying her around the bases, touching her left foot to each base. She made the winning home run of the game. We can't always gather everyone in a room for a sermon, but we can choose to live out God's love, to be the salt of the earth. And who knows, maybe sometimes someone will see one of these acts that we do, and will say, what do they have in their life that I don't? Imagine if we had an entire world of people who are willing to give up their shoes, or if we had an entire world of softball players. Instead of people just hearing what we have to say about God, they would see it. Knowing how to follow Jesus and actually following Jesus are two totally different things. So I challenge you, not to just preach about how to be Christ-like, but to actually act Christ-like in your everyday actions. The Good Samaritan didn't just share his lunch with others. He showed and demonstrated overwhelming compassion and love for someone who wasn't his friend, but his enemy.